Take a look at the skyline of any major city in America. You see massive towers of steel and glass, and most people think they can never own a piece of that world. For decades, the narrative has been simple. Real estate is a game played only by the rich. If you do not have $80,000 for a down payment, you are told to stay on the sidelines. But while you are waiting and saving, inflation is eating your cash alive. The price of a typical home in the United States has now climbed above $400,000. For most hard-working people, this makes the American dream of property ownership feel more like a distant memory. However, there is a secret that the top 1% has been using to stay wealthy while the rest of the world struggles. It is a concept that is changing everything in 2025. I am talking about the democratization of assets through fractional ownership. Imagine being able to own a piece of a high-end vacation rental in Florida or a commercial building in Texas for the price of a nice dinner out. This is no longer a dream or a high-tech fantasy. It is a structural shift in how wealth is built. And today I'm going to show you exactly how it works. I will explain why owning a digital brick is often smarter than owning a whole building. We are going to pull back the curtain on the mechanics of this wealth machine. By the end of this video, you will understand how to build a diversified property portfolio, starting with just $100. How the 1% grows wealth while you sleep. Have you ever wondered why the wealthy do not keep their money in a standard savings account? Even with high-yield accounts offering 4 or 5% interest, the rich know that cash is a liability. Cash loses value every single day that the cost of living goes up. The wealthy invest in things that are tangible and things that produce income. They want assets that are backed by land and buildings because these things cannot be printed by a central bank. Historically, real estate has been one of the greatest hedges against inflation ever created. When prices at the grocery store go up, the value of property and the cost of rent usually follow right behind. Until now, the only problem was the barrier to entry. If you wanted to buy an apartment building, you needed millions. If you wanted to buy a single-family home, you needed a massive credit score and a huge chunk of change. But the 1% has always used a strategy called syndication. They pool their money together to buy massive assets that no single person could afford alone. Fractional ownership is simply taking that elite strategy and making it available to you. Instead of one person owning 100% of a house, 1,000 people can own 1/10 of 1% each. You still get the benefits of property appreciation. You still get your share of the monthly rent. And most importantly, you are finally off the sidelines and in the game. The mechanics of the digital brick. You might be asking yourself how this is even legal, or how you can be sure you actually own anything. The process is actually very transparent and governed by strict financial regulations. When a platform buys a property, they do not just put it in their own name. They create a separate legal entity called an LLC, or a limited liability company, for that specific house. When you invest $100, you are actually buying shares of that LLC. This means you are a legal part owner of the company that owns the deed to the property. If the platform itself were to disappear, the property still belongs to the LLC and the shareholders. This structure protects you and ensures that your investment is backed by a real physical asset. Once the property is purchased, a professional management team takes over. They find the tenants and they handle the repairs and they collect the rent. You do not have to worry about a leaky faucet or a tenant who does not pay on time. Every month or every quarter, the net profit from that rent is distributed back to the shareholders. It is truly passive income because your only job was to provide the capital. While that rent is hitting your account, the property itself is hopefully increasing in value over time. When the property is eventually sold in 5 or 10 years, you get your share of the profit from that sale as well. Strategic diversification for the modern investor. One of the biggest mistakes people make in real estate is putting all their eggs in one basket. If you buy one house in one neighborhood, you are taking a huge risk. What if a major employer leaves that town? What if a natural disaster hits that specific street? Fractional ownership solves this problem through a strategy I call the 10-10-10 rule. Instead of spending $100,000 on one property, you could spend $1,000 on 100 different properties. You could own a piece of a residential home in Ohio, and a piece of a warehouse in Georgia, and a piece of a vacation villa in Arizona. This kind of diversification was impossible for the average person just a few years ago. Now you can spread your risk across different geographic locations and different types of real estate. There is also a hidden benefit that many people overlook, and that is the tax advantage. In the United States, real estate investors get to use something called depreciation. Even if the property is actually going up in value, the government allows you to write off a portion of the building's cost as an expense. Because you are a part owner of the LLC, those tax benefits flow through to you. This can often make your rental income tax-free or significantly reduce the amount you owe. It is the same tax code used by the biggest real estate moguls in the world. Risks and reality checks you need to hear. I want to be very clear that every investment has risks, and fractional real estate is no exception. The biggest factor you need to consider is liquidity. Unlike a stock that you can sell in 1 second, real estate is a slow-moving asset. When you buy shares of a property, you should expect to hold them for at least 3 to 5 years. Some platforms are building secondary markets where you can sell your shares to other investors, but these are not always guaranteed. You must view this as a long-term wealth-building tool rather than a quick way to make a buck. You also need to be very careful about the platforms you choose. Not all platforms are created equal, and some charge much higher fees than others. A platform with high management fees can eat into your profits very quickly. Always look for a company that has a strong track record and a high volume of assets under management. Check to see if they are registered with the proper financial authorities in your country. The goal is to find a balance between a high potential yield and a safe, reliable structure. Taking your first step toward asset-backed wealth. We are living in a time where the gap between the rich and the poor is widening. But for the first time in history, the tools to bridge that gap are in your hands. You no longer need to wait until you are a millionaire to start investing like one. The most important thing is to stop trading your time for money and start trading your money for assets. Every $100 you move from a stagnant bank account into a productive asset is a step toward true freedom. It is about building a wall of protection around your family's future. If you could own a piece of any landmark or any city in the world, which one would it be, and why? Would you choose the steady growth of a quiet suburb or the high-stakes energy of a major city center? I want you to think about that and let me know in the comments, because I want to look at the ROI potential of your dream locations. Your choice of location says a lot about your investment style, and we can all learn from each other's perspectives. If you are ready to see which platforms are actually safe and which ones you should avoid, you need to watch my next video. I have conducted a full audit of the top 3 platforms for 2025 to see who is actually delivering on their promises. Thank you for spending your time with me today, and remember that wealth is not just about what you earn, but what you own. This content is for informational purposes only and does not constitute financial or legal advice. Please consult with a qualified professional before making any investment decisions.